And he come walking up to me with those large blackened glasses, and I couldn't see him. And they went all the way around the sides. It was just an unusual thing to have on during church. And he said, I was wondering if I could speak to you and the pastor in the office. And I said, well, I usually don't counsel, but you're weird, and I want to see what's going on. So I said, we'll meet you in the office. And so we went in there, and he was trembling and shaking. And he said, Brother Kidd, if that congregation knew what I knew about fire, everybody would have got saved this morning. I said, sir, I don't understand what you're talking about. He said, preacher, my wife left me. And said she left me with a 4-year-old boy, and we was living in Dad's old farmhouse, and I'd cranked up Dad's old John Deere tractor out in the field, and I decided to till it up and have a garden that year. I was depressed, going through a divorce. He said my boy was napping, and I put him in his upstairs room, and he was sleeping. He said, I was out there plowing that field with Daddy's old tractor. He said, right out there in the middle of the field, that old tractor just bogged down and died. He said, I couldn't get it to start. He said, I went to jump off of it to see what was wrong, and I heard somebody yell, help! He said, I turned around and looked at the old farmhouse where we were living, and it was up in flames. My beautiful little boy was hanging out of the upstairs window yelling for me to help. I don't know how long the house had been on fire because I couldn't hear anything. He said, I remember running through the clods of that field and diving through that barbed wire fence, going to that 2 big old story farmhouse that I'd been raised in. He said, when I opened the door, I was welcomed by a gulf of flames that would absolutely singe you to the bone. And he said, I could hear my boy yelling through the fire, help, Daddy! Daddy, the fire's coming up the stairs! And he said, I knew my boy was trapped. He said, I didn't know what to do. I knew my time was limited, so he said, I did what any dad would do. I took a deep breath and tried to cover my face, and I ran inside. He said, it wasn't long till I felt like I was being cooked, and even though it was my own house, he said, through the smoke and the fire, I got confused, and I kind of lost track of where I even was. And so I was trying to follow through the roaring of the flames, the screaming of my son, Daddy, the fire's at my door! Dad, I'm burning! He said, I followed the trail of the voice of my son through the smoke. I was coughing and gagging and throwing up. And he said, when I got upstairs, he said, I took some blankets and quilts and stuff. He said, I wrapped my little boy in them blankets. And he said, about that time, a neighbor come around through the back, and he said, I took my boy and said, I'm coming down the steps, help us. And he said, I remember they came up and they got my boy out of that window. And he said, about that time, Brother Kidd, the floor fell through. And he said, all I remember is falling through that upstairs down to the main floor and being wedged in by some burning timbers. But I knew my son had been saved. And he said, I was wedged and all that burning wood was up against my body. And he said, the last thing I remember is yelling, help, I'm burning alive! Help me, I'm burning alive! He said, I passed out, that's all I remember. And he pulled his sunglasses off. And I thought I would throw up in the floor. The matted strands of flesh they had tried to graft over the open sockets of his face. They'd put his eyeballs back in place. All of this had burned away and was gone. And they had taken graft and just put strips of flesh across his eyeballs to try to hold them in the sockets. I'd never seen anything that nasty in my life. I said, sir, please put those glasses back over your eyes. He said, preacher, if people knew what I knew about fire, they'd all got saved this morning. I thought to myself, honey, if just a few minutes being trapped and wedged in between some burning timbers can get you to the place where you pass out because physically you can't endure the suffering and the pain. But there's no unconsciousness in hell. You don't pass out in hell. You don't go into convulsions in hell. You are going to be awake forever and forever. You will forever die but never die. You will forever perish but never perish. You'll remember the times when you have an opportunity to be saved, and you'll cry out to God for mercy, and you'll think about your wife and your kids that prayed for you, and your husband that tried to get you to church, and your son and daughter that tried to get you to go to the house of God. And while you're falling through the burning of the wrath of God, you'll cry out throughout all eternity, oh God, have mercy on my wretched soul. But sinner, there is no mercy in hell. I'm closing. I'll tell you why you're not going to laugh when you get to hell. Because you're going to be moved with passion toward others. Now think about this and I'm done. He said, Abraham, if I'm here, I'm here. But I got 5 brothers. And I don't want them to come here. Would you send somebody to win my brothers? You know what's sad? There's people in hell that's got more compassion for sinners than some of us that are sitting here on our way to heaven. Let me say this to you, sinner friend, young or old. People in heaven are praying for you. Because there's rejoicing in the presence of the angels when a sinner gets saved. There's people in this building praying for you. There's people in hell praying for you. Now watch this. Anybody that's got people above them, around them, and below them praying for them to get saved, and you die without God, you ought to go to hell. I read a statistic the other day. If a husband and wife refuses to receive Jesus Christ as their Savior, there's a 91% chance I'll never win their children. Only 1 out of 10 children will ever be saved that comes from a home where mom and dad is not saved. So I want to say to you parents, you say, well, I'll go to hell if I want to. It's my life. That's right, honey. You want to go to hell? Help yourself, buddy. Go to hell if that's what you want. But you better remember one thing, sir. You're taking your sons and your daughters with you. And when you get to hell, the only thing I know of that could be worse than going to hell is knowing your boy's on the way. Could you imagine going to hell? And while you're burning, thinking, oh my God, my son's on his way. I want to close with this. It's amazing to me how parents can recognize the voice of their children. Tonight, there's a lot of children here, and if we had a nursery, if one kid screamed, the right mama would get up and go back there. They could, just about, you know the voice of your children. I don't understand it. It's just part of us. I want to take you to hell for just a minute and I'm done. Here's a daddy. He's burning in the bottomless pit. The flames of the wrath of Almighty God are licking his never-dying soul. Once in a while he's bumping into the fire and the brimstone as he falls to a place that's darker than 1,000 midnights. The sun never shines, the birds never sing, babies never cry, the presence of God's never found, and nobody ever gets a drink of water there. And over the roaring of the flames and the laughing and the chanting of the demons of hell, you can hear the screams of untold billions of people. Oh, God! No! No! And then all of a sudden, from out of the midst of the screams, you recognize a voice. Ow! Oh! Oh, God, please forgive me. I know that voice anywhere. That's my son. Oh, God! I've not only gone to hell, I brought my son! I gotta find my son. You start crawling through the souls of men and women, boys and girls, and you hear him over here in the corridor. Ouch! And about the time you get to that corridor and you think you're where he was, all of a sudden his voice is way over here. Ouch! time you get over there, you listen and he's over here. And you're trying to find him, but you know he's fallen. And the souls of men and women in the fire and the wrath and the roaring and the smoke and the demons. But after a period of time, son, son, what's it doing? This is Dad. It's Dad, I'm here. But instead of his son embracing him, instead of his son receiving comfort, instead of his son loving him, instead of his son feeling secure, all of a sudden his son grabs him and he pulls on his face and he tries to gouge out his eyes and he's twisting his ear and he's biting on his face and he's saying, I hate you. I hate you. Daddy, if you knew there was a hell, why didn't you get saved? Daddy, if you knew there's a hell, why didn't you take me to church? Why didn't you give me a Bible? Why didn't you get me to an altar? Why didn't you and Mama pray? I hate you, Daddy. I hate you. Oh, God. There's no laughing in hell. So if you're going to laugh, honey, you better laugh now. Because you ain't going to be laughing later on. Let's stand with our heads bowed, our eyes are closed. It's invitation time. Halfway through my message, the Spirit of God spoke to my heart. Somebody is getting a call of God. Somebody! God is dealing with your wicked heart tonight, friend. Somebody said, Brother Kidd, that message isn't for me. I'm saved. Oh, but wait a minute. What about your mommy? What about your dad? What about that old gray-haired grandpa you loved? What about that country cooking grandma? What about your son? What about your daughter? What about your husband? What about your wife? This message ought to break the heart of every born-again believer. We all need to be reminded nobody's laughing in hell. So while Brother Mike plays this old song for just a moment, that's right, they're coming from everywhere. You come right on. I want you to come. I wonder tonight, while he just plays on the guitar for just a moment, do you really want to go to hell, friend? Just play for just a minute. While our heads are bowed, our eyes are closed, I want to talk to you privately just a minute. I want to do it in respect. Somebody here tonight's not saved. I don't know who you are, but God does, and he already told me he was going to speak to you tonight. You got dealt with tonight, buddy. God dealt with your heart tonight. And I wonder tonight, I don't know if we're going to give a public invitation as such, but I do believe in prayer. I wonder tonight, before I close in prayer, I wonder how many of you would say, Brother Kidd, just looking at life and my heart and being honest, if I were to die tonight, I'm not even sure I'm going to heaven. But God knows one thing tonight, Brother Kidd. God knows I don't want to go to hell. Jesus paid it all. All to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, and he's washed it white as snow. God bless you, man. You say, preacher, I don't know that I'm saved, but I don't want to go to this place called hell tonight. God spoke to me, and I want you to pray for me. I need to be saved. Right now, while nobody's looking, would you just lift your hand with honesty and say, I'll tell you something. I'm concerned about my soul. I want to get saved. I need to be saved. God bless you, honey. God sees your tears. Would you slip your hand up? That's right. You come on, sweetie. You come on. Anybody else? Slip your hand up. Put it right back down. Brother Kidd, in the privacy of this moment, I need some preacher to pray for me. I don't want to go to hell when I die. Is there another before I close? I appreciate your honesty. Somebody else? What about it, sir? Sir, are you so far gone that you don't even care? I mean, you don't even care that you're going to hell? Are you that far gone? Then I can't help you anyway. Is there somebody else that said, Brother Kid, I should have lifted my hand? I want you to pray for me. I'm not saved either. Thank you, ma'am. God bless you, honey. Thank you. I'll pray for you. Is there another?